What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kelvin's Garage. Today we have a very special episode for you. We're going to change out the VTEC solenoid gasket on the 2006 Honda Civic. As many of you know, I've been nursing this oil leak for quite some time. You can even see it's left a huge stain on my driveway here, and I've decided to finally do something about it. But it comes from the passenger side of the vehicle, okay, not the driver's side. But first, let's go to our favorite website, civic.hondafitjazz.com, and we can see all the diagrams are available for us to study, okay? So if you take a look here, this is a diagram of the 2006 Honda Civic, and we can see that we're gonna be working behind here, okay? Behind the engine over here. It's very obscured, all right? But this is what we call the rocker arm oil control valve, okay? It's back there. And here are the official instructions from Honda on how to remove the VTEC rocker arm oil control valve, also known as the VTEC solenoid, all right? We're just calling it VTEC solenoid. Now, according to the official instructions, you have to do a lot of extra stuff, all right? So step one, remove the cowl cover and under cowl panel, all right? Now, first thing I'm gonna say is we're not gonna do that, all right? So fortunately, our technique is a little bit more difficult to do, but does not follow the official instructions. So scratch that out. For those people who are interested in doing it by the book, okay, and there are videos who talk about how to do this, I'm just gonna skim through all these steps we're gonna skip over, okay? The cowl cover replacement. Okay, remove this, remove that, okay? You have all these fasteners here, clips, you gotta remove this. Take off that panel to allow access. Take off this panel underneath that, okay? And then take off the windshield, wiper arms, blah, blah. Okay, and then take this off, take that. And we're not doing any of that, all right? We're gonna save you time doing it the quick method. Now, here is a diagram of that VTEC solenoid, and it's behind the engine, all right? And we can see, here's that unit, all right? And it's fastened by these three bolts here. This one, and this one, okay? There's an electrical connector up here on top, okay? And there's another electrical connector right here, all right? And so the goal is to remove the electrical connectors and then remove these three bolts here. There's another bolt here, which is the bolt that holds in this bracket, okay, which a lot of the harnesses and hoses are kind of attached to, okay, and we are also going to be removing that to make things easier. But if you look here, this VTEC solenoid unit is pressed up against the back of the engine head, okay, right here, okay, through this gasket, okay, this is the gasket here. Are you see that? This is the gasket. It's this thing that has 4 little compartments on it. Now, it's not always called the gasket. We'll get to the real name in just a second, but that's what it is, all right? So you remove the rocker arm control valve, install the rocker arm control valve in reverse order of removal with a new rocker arm oil control valve filter, okay? That's what it's called. All right, let's check it out. This is the part number 15826-RNA-A01. All right, this is the genuine Honda VTEC solenoid gasket. Okay, and here it is. And let's take a better look at it here. It's a rubber gasket with these 4 little windows on it, okay? And one of the windows has this special looking little screen right here. All right, and this is the gasket that we're going to replace. Now, they do have an aftermarket version of this. I think it's from Dorman, but I do recommend getting the genuine Honda version. Okay, and in terms of tooling, you actually don't need much to do this job. You do need, though, a ratchet, okay, that has this flexible head, okay? So you need a flexible head ratchet, okay? And that will help you get in the angle behind the engine over there. Okay, you need a 10mm socket, all right? Now, there's 2 options here. You can use a deep socket like this, all right? Or you can use an extension, okay? Short extension, and I've got some adapters here with a 10mm at the end over here. So either or, okay? Either or, but you don't want to go too deep because then you might hit the back, all right? I'll use this in the video, all right? But again, you have options, all right? You need some pliers, okay, to just get the clips out of the way. And also a little flathead screwdriver, okay? That helps to pry off one of the holders over there, cable holder. All right, now one of the hard parts about this job is that the VTEC solenoid is behind the engine over here, deep into the engine compartment, all right? So it's not really easy to see, okay? So it's kind of behind there. You might even have to use your imagination. But I've lifted the hood up, and I've used the hood prop on this hole right here, okay, so there's more clearance so that you can kind of reach back there. But if you look here, this is the VTEC solenoid over here, okay, and what we need to do is we kind of need to free it up. It's got several connections. We need to take off this wire, take off that wiring harness, and there's another electrical connector on the bottom, all right, and then we'll be able to undo the bolts that's holding it in place and then take it out. Okay, and if your engine bay is still hot, if you just finished driving, make sure you let it cool down a little bit, at least 30 minutes before you start working on the car, because the components will be hot. All right, in a number of videos, there are a lot of different versions of what you may need to undo and remove in order to take out the VTEC solenoid in the back, okay? And basically the idea is the same, okay? Some guys may say, remove this harness here, remove this connector here, remove that here. But essentially what you're just doing is creating the space and the freedom of movement needed to get that VTEC solenoid out of there. So do what you need to do and just kind of keep track of what you did so that you can remember to plug it back in. Some essentials obviously are the electrical connections, which are connected to the VTEC solenoid, and there are two, okay? But then there's also this harness over here that we may need to take off. So I'm gonna start by taking off this electrical connector here. Just press it down and pull it away, okay? That was easy. All right, and then I'm also going to take off this green one over here. Sticking my thumb in this little tab right here outwards, and I'm gonna lift this out of that little tab slot right there. Okay, you see that? Then the next thing I'm going to do is undo this clip right here, okay? This little clip is what is holding this harness connected to the bracket over here, okay? And we're gonna undo that just to give it more degrees of freedom. So take your plier, clip it on that little nib there, and push it out and away. Okay, there we go, we got it out. You see that? Okay, we got it out, we pushed it in and pulled it out. Okay, next thing you wanna do is undo this little clip right here, okay? So I have a short screwdriver here, and then there's a little area here where you can just kind of stick it in and wedge it out. So let me do that. Okay, there it goes, okay? Wedged out the little clip, and then I can pull this hose off, okay? You see that? Okay, now back here, there's a connector. Do you see that electrical connector over here? It's a little bit hard to see, but I got the camera in a position where you can see it. All right, you wanna pull this off here. All right, so we're just going to maneuver our hand down there, okay? You see that? Maneuver our hand down there and unplug that one, okay? Just press, just squeeze together, pull off, okay? See that? I just did it. All right, you see that? All right, and now all we need to do is remove the 3 bolts associated with the VTEC solenoid, okay? So it's actually a little bit hard to see, so what I did is I got my mirror out here, okay? Okay, so we have one of the bolts right here. All right, and then on the other side, you see this bulbous thing right here? On the other side of the bulbous thing is the other one, okay? So you're going to feel around for it, okay? But there it is in the camera right there. Okay, you see that? It also helps to undo this hose here. You see this hose over here? Okay, that was the one that was connected to that grommet thing over there. It also helps to undo this, so you can kind of move it around a little bit. If you really need to, you can also undo this one, okay? Then that way you can pull the whole hose out. Okay, that way it's not all blocking right here. But I think technically you don't have to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go at the bolt with my flex head ratchet, okay, and my 10mm, and I'm gonna get around there and undo the bolts on the 2 sides of this bulbous looking thing. All right, you may need to maneuver around if the cables are in the way. All right, but you get the idea here, okay? I'm trying to hit this screw right here, okay? So there it is. So I'm gonna do this off camera, then I'm gonna do the other one next to it over here, okay? Okay, you can even see it from the side here, okay? I've loosened that one. So very carefully take this out, okay? Remember to hold on to your screws, okay? Whatever you do, do not drop them. All right, I hate dropping screws and bolts. So, but yeah, here it is. Here's that screw right there. Okay, set it aside. All right, and then the second one, I've got it in about the right position here. You can see the socket is around the bolt right now. okay? Okay, you can really see it now. This angle over here, okay? I've got the camera into the engine bay here, okay? But you can see, I got it right here, see? Alright, so I loosened up that second screw, and let me see if I can get you an angle of it. But it should be right here. See where the bulbous thing is, okay? Should be right here below it. Okay, you can unscrew it by hand after you've loosened it. Okay, and it's quite long, so it won't just fall out. Okay, but here I am just undoing it with my hand here, and I'm gonna pull it out. All right, here is the second screw. Don't drop it, okay? Don't drop it. Okay. All right. Okay, so I undid this bracket screw here, loosened it off camera, but you can see here I'm actually just gonna take it out. Okay, now this one is not a super long screw, so be careful, all right? Be careful not to drop it. But I'm gonna unscrew that. Okay, and that way this whole thing here will be a little more freer, okay, to move. All right. So you see how it's kind of like free floating now, okay? And finally, I'm gonna get the screw that's way down there, but it's quite hard to see. But you're just gonna have to feel around for it until you get that last screw there. But once you get that, this whole thing should be free to come out, all right? But I'm gonna do that off camera. Okay, so I got that final screw. It was way down there, all right? Way down there, but you can already see that the solenoid is already kind of loose, all right? So you gotta reach, like I said, way down there below the connector, all right, in order to access that screw. All right, it helps to use the socket as kind of like a screwdriver. So if you get the socket, you can get it around that. You can pull it out. I'm gonna do that right now. All right, so I took out the third and final screw, and it's just soaked in oil, okay? It's just totally covered in oil. So yeah, that VTEC solenoid gasket definitely is leaky. All right, and now that the thing is loose, we should be able to just pull it right out, okay? So be careful not to drop it. But we're gonna take it out. You see the gasket is still on there, okay? The old one. So I'm gonna take it out and kind of maneuver it out of this area here. Just like so, okay? All right, and there it is, okay? The VTEC solenoid and gasket. And it's totally leaking all over the place. All right, so we took out the VTEC solenoid here, okay? It says Keishin RNAA 016-051236, okay? And I cleaned it up a little bit, all right? And one of my little secrets, all right, that I have been using for a long time is alcohol wipes, okay? I always keep a jar of alcohol wipes, okay? Even 70% is good because, you know, they're not paper towels and they won't tear, all right? So they're pretty sturdy, and the alcohol just cuts right through the grease, all right? I got this at the Walmart, okay, in the medical section, actually, the pharmacy area. All right, so get that where you can get your rubbing alcohol. So I cleaned it up quite a bit, all right? And if we just take a look and just study it, we can kind of understand the anatomy of it and why it was difficult to take off, okay? But if you see here, it's got this elongated shape, all right? It's still dripping oil a little bit, but this is what we were trying to do, okay? We had these two bolts right there and right there, okay? Okay, it was upright like this. But we had the two bolts here, and then we have this electrical connector right here, and the third one, which is well below that, is over here. So you have to reach your hand over the electrical connector and then around to the bottom, okay, to access that one here. Okay, but it's not too bad once you are able to feel around for it. Okay, and finally, the other one that I did, just to make life easier, is I took out that little harness bracket bolt, okay? So here's the little harness bracket bolt that I took out to make life easier, and that's right here, all right? So now that you can see where all the bolts go in on this VTEC solenoid unit, okay, you can see how you need to reach around and get the respective ones, okay? But basically on this unit, there's only these 4 that you need to think about, all right? These 3 being the main ones. You don't need to touch these 2, okay? Do not touch this, all right? But there it is. All right, so now that we have taken it out, we need to replace the gasket. As you can see here, this gasket is fairly flat. So it starts out round and it gets compressed against the back of the engine, all right? And it looks like it gets compressed, and maybe this one was compressed over time, started leaking around the periphery of it, right? So we're just gonna take out the old one, and we're gonna clean up the back of the engine, and we're gonna install the new one here, and we're gonna slap it all back together. All right, so what I ended up doing is I took the plier, I grabbed it by the screed, and I pulled it off from there, and it came off, okay? So there it is, okay? So you can see there's a special groove here to hold this gasket, all right? And don't get it confused, okay? It goes like this, all right? And we're gonna remember this for the new solenoid gasket. Okay, installation of the new gasket is just opposite of the removal of the old one. Okay, if we take a look here, here is the old one here. It's really flat, okay? Really flat, really old, really hard. Okay, and here's the new one, okay? Still nice and rubbery and supple. The screen goes inside, okay? Goes into this unit here, okay? And you can see here that the way this trapezoid is shaped here, it's made in a way where you can't get it wrong, the orientation. All right, but we're just gonna pop this in right here, okay, just like so, okay? And you see it's also got these little bits here on the edge of the gasket which keep it in place, okay? So it won't be slipping and sliding around. We clean that groove a little bit with our alcohol wipes, okay, so it's nice and clean. You can also use Q-tips, alcohol, whatever you want, okay? But just press this in gently by hand, okay? And this side of the gasket is ready to install, okay? So we just need to clean the side of the engine now. Make sure that mating surface is nice and clean. If you now go into here, you can see the mating surface of the gasket, all right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna clean that off, okay, with my alcohol wipe, okay, and make sure it's nice and clean for the reinstallation, okay? But you can see there's a lot of oily residue here. So this is more than likely the area which was creating the leak. Okay, but as you can see, I cleaned up most of that oily residue. Okay, and you can kind of make out the mating surface here. So yeah, the phone is pretty vertical right now, okay, but you can kind of see more or less the mating surface here, and that I cleaned it up pretty good, all right? But yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like after you clean it up, and we're gonna put the solenoid with new gasket back in there. Okay, installation is the reverse of removal. So we're going to take our solenoid with gasket and we're gonna kind of wiggle it in place, okay? The same way it came out, all right? And it should be able to press against the engine, okay? But you'll have to wiggle it a little bit, but you should be able to get it in there. Okay, there it is, okay? So it did take a little wiggling around, okay? But you should be able to wiggle it around, get it into position, and then try to string the screw in through to hold it in place, all right? So I'm gonna do that off camera. It takes 2 hands. Okay, I was able to get the first bolt in here. Okay, it's right here. You see, I just kind of hand screwed it in right here. And I'm gonna do the other side right now, okay? Here's the other bolt right here. And just kind of string it through the housing of the VTEC solenoid first, and it should find its way into the engine, the head, okay? So let me go around here, go around the hose here. Again, it's a little hard to see, but yeah, so stringing it in, strained it in right here, okay, and then just start turning. And if you need to wiggle this around so that the threads of that bolt catch, please do so, okay? So, but I already have the 2, and that should give it a generally correct alignment, all right? And then I'm gonna do the last one at the bottom, hand tighten first, and then we'll torque down the bolts. Okay, so while doing this, I just found a new angle where you can kind of see the bolt, that lowest one here. But if you move the bracket out, you can kind of see the bolt way down there. It's right there, right in the middle of the screen, okay? That's the one that's underneath the connector. You're gonna have to reach around. Okay, you reach around the connector, okay, like here, okay? You can hit that bolt, okay, right here, where my finger is. Okay, you can do it a number of ways. You can go that way, use your left arm to come around this other direction here, but in any case, screw in that one. Then we've got the two here, the one right here, and the one on the opposing side over here. Okay, make sure you tighten it relatively well. Okay, if you look here, my ratchet, it's way down there, okay? Way down there, but make sure you tighten it snug, because remember, this is supposed to compress that gasket, okay? But you can see where the socket is. I just tightened it, all right? So remember to tighten it gently, but not over tighten, all right? All right, and likewise, do the upper two right here. All right, tighten gently. All right, you can see that, right? Yeah, tighten it, remember to compress the gasket, but not too hard. And we also need to get that one over there to my right, okay? Tightening it now, right there, see that? Okay, and while we're back here, and this thing is still free floating, let's put this electrical connector. Okay, you see this one right here? This electrical connector back on the solenoid, okay? Okay, you see this? The connector is right here. Okay, ignore the bracket for now, but you see? Beyond the bracket, here's the two connectors. One on the solenoid, and here's the harness. Just clip it in. Like so. Okay, and then the bracket, we're gonna put it back on. Okay, we already put this back on earlier. I just figured it's a little easier. But you see this hole here, just goes right over here on the solenoid, and we just need to string it through with our bolt. All right, we got our little bolt right here, okay, and I'm gonna string it through, okay, and be careful not to drop the bolt, okay, but yeah, just stick it in like that. Okay, here's a bolt, and start the thread on it, and you'll be okay. Here it is, putting my finger on it, and then putting the socket over it, okay, just like that, okay, and just tighten it down. All right, and then let's put this hose back here into the grommet like that, okay. All right, and we're going to likewise put it through this holder here, which was on that harness bracket. Okay, just put it in through like that and just squeeze it together. Okay, like that. Take the green one, okay, which is just a holder for the harness. That bracket thing, you see this one right here? Okay, just slip it up and over that. Just lock into place. Okay, just like this, okay? Okay. Okay, and finally, don't forget this connector up here, okay? Just put it back there and snap it in. Okay, and we're good to go, okay? So that's it. I know that was a little bit tight working on this gasket here, but pretty much that's it. Hopefully we'll have no leaks, but remember to monitor if you are dripping oil, okay, below your car after doing this job. You might need to retighten those bolts a little bit because that gasket is not being compressed enough. All right, and that's it. You've just installed a brand new VTEC solenoid gasket on your 2006 8th Gen Honda Civic. Make sure you take it out for a little test drive and that there are no more oil leaks. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Kelvin's Garage.